Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Paychex Business Series podcast. I'm your host, Gene Marks. I'm a certified public accountant and regular business columnist for a bunch of publications, including Forbes and Entrepreneur. But more importantly, I'm a small business owner of a financial and technology management services company. I've teamed up with Paychex, the leading provider of human resources, payroll, benefits, and insurance services, to bring you real-life advice from real-life business owners and industry experts. In this podcast, we're going to talk about the complexities of running a small business and how one business owner handles the challenges that he faces. And that business owner is Jim Gaffigan. In this podcast, we'll be talking to Jim about his views on social media and how he's leveraging social media to grow his business in the future. Jim Gaffigan is a stand-up comedian, actor, writer, and producer, and my all-time favorite comic. I've been a fan of Jim's for a number of years. His material is often about fatherhood, observations, laziness, and food. He has had several successful comedy specials, including Mr. Universe, Obsessed, Cinco, and Quality Time, all of which have received Grammy nominations. His memoir, Dad is Fat, and his most recent book, Food, A Love Story, are both published by Crown Publishers. He co-created and started a TV Land television series based on his life called The Jim Gaffigan Show. And now stuck at home with his wife and 5 kids, Jim has been busy doing segments for CBS and a hugely popular YouTube cooking show called Let's Get Cooking. So Jim, tell me what appeals to you about YouTube right now.
What I really like about YouTube is there's a forgiveness surrounding the quality of YouTube. So in other words, if we watch something on television, we have a certain expectation for production value, and there's a looseness. And I witnessed this in just seeing how much my young children consume YouTube, where it's similar to podcasts, right? Except for on YouTube, it's even shorter bits of content, whereas podcasts are much more like, chat radio. YouTube is much more of a mindless content, kind of like a bad movie that you've seen before, but it still gives you enjoyment. Right. And there's also something about the relationship that you develop with, in my belief, that you develop with someone who watches your YouTube channel. I should also say, I haven't figured it out, but I know that just the way the comments work, the way there's a relationship there, it's not a normal social media platform where people like it or they dislike it. It's, there's something about relationships that you establish that are obviously videos that's different from images of Instagram or quirps or
Sure.
Statements on Twitter or Facebook.
Well, YouTube is the number 2 most popular search engine. And as we know, videos are consuming the internet itself. I mean, the issue that you've got, which is similar to a lot of people running their businesses, is that there's all these different platforms. And you've got some people that are on YouTube all the time, like your kids probably, and you've got other people that are on Instagram or Snapchat or Twitter. How do you figure out how to divide your time without limiting your audience?
Well, I focus on I'm driving people to come see me live, right? And so it's not just a monetary gain; it's a better experience when people are aware of your sensibility, particularly for stand-up. So let me go off on a tangent. Like there are people, there's fame, and then there's like-mindedness. So fame is where, I don't mean anything negative by this. Pauly Shore is famous. People would go and see him do stand-up out of curiosity, but they wouldn't know what kind of stand-up he might do. They might have an idea because of his movies. But like-mindedness is you've established a conversation with people. So through social media, I can establish my point of view, my comedic point of view, an understanding which is going to influence expectations. So people know the type of comedy I'm going to do. And that's not to say that there aren't, I'm not going to challenge people, but it's going to be, people understand my sensibility. Then the shows are even easier. And I'm not looking for easy. I'm looking for, the more fun I'm having, the more creatively fulfilled I am, which feeds my creativity. So in other words, if I'm in front of an audience that gets me, that understands that I obviously love my wife and children, but parenting is hard, then they're going to give me a pass on maybe some darker statement
Right.
about parenting, or some level of irreverence around enthusiasm for parenting, because we've established that relationship.
Your stand-up business, your livelihood for the most part, it blows up. You don't know when you're going to get back to it. So now you're gravitating more online, you know? I'm curious to see what's changing for you. What are you learning about online? I'm going to throw a bunch of questions on the same topic. Are you going to focus on any one specific platform? Are you going to maybe invest more? Are you going to bring people on to help you have a better direction as to where you should be spending your money and your time? What are your thoughts about online, given what's happened to your live business as it is right now? What are your plans?
Well, I think that I am going to focus on, well, creative fulfillment is a really important thing too. So, what is the platform that can provide creative fulfillment and be sustainable? The podcast thing is flooded. I think and I'm talking about comedians.
Yeah,
It's flooded with comedians.
it
People
is.
have those relationships. I also think that, I personally think that for stand-ups, a podcast almost reveals too much. I think some of
Yep.
the mystery's gone.
Yep.
Um, I do think these YouTube videos, whether it be Let's Get Cooking, or, I started this new one, the Mike and Pat Show, where it is, again, it's imperfect production,
Yeah.
but it is entertainment, because no matter what happens with the pandemic or the social unrest, we need to, we have, essentially, we're all a captive audience. And we also, we need to understand and educate ourselves, but we also need a break from it. We need a reminder of what normalcy or humanity is. So whether that be a reminder that, like, an 8-year-old boy and a 7-year-old boy trying bologna is funny. Do you know what I mean? Or a reminder that, that I don't know how to cook, and adding some elements. So it's not just vanity, and it reinforces my comedic point of view.
And you monetize it?
Yeah, it's again, I'm going long term
Okay.
on YouTube, where there's a lot I don't know, but I'm trying to hopefully gain subscribers, but I'm educating a new group of audience. Like, my manager always described my business as, if we're on an airplane, everyone in coach knows who Jim Gaffigan is, but you're sitting in first class next to somebody who doesn't know who you are. And so my whole approach is always providing content and a certain level of quality, hopefully. And so that is how I see YouTube. But, and again, I could write a book. Maybe I will. Maybe in a week I'll be like, I want to write a book. But I also want, I learned that seeking creative fulfillment, or that momentary endorphin rush, is far more rewarding than a paycheck. One of the primary tasks, or approaches to my YouTube channel has been uploading clips from my 7 comedy specials.
Right.
The Let's Get Cooking is really fun, and that's what, might have caught your eye because my stuff. But uploading, 8 hours of material in 7-minute chunks on a daily basis, because that's what I've done. I've decided that I'm going to post. I didn't post yesterday, but I post a video a day, and hopefully that will establish the relationship.
We're not afraid to give away stuff for free, though. And a lot of my clients and business owners resist social media and YouTube or even Facebook because they don't want to provide content which they feel they could be paid for. But that's not you.
No, I think that I think it's a long-term relationship. And I think that also in this day and time, that if you're seeking money, I think that's, look, I'm not saying that there aren't commercials running on some of the videos, but like if you're only seeking commerce in this time where, 1 in 4 people is probably struggling to get by, it's distasteful. So it's like you got to think long ball.
I like it. And while seeking that creative fulfillment, which you're enjoying doing, it is also building your brand, which
Yeah.
does build a long-term value for you, and you will ultimately get back to normal.
Yeah.
And back hopefully on the road. Thanks, Jim. That was Jim Gaffigan. For more information about what we discussed today and other coronavirus questions and topics, please visit the Paychex COVID-19 Help Center. The address is paychex.com, coronavirus-resources. Thanks, Jim, again, for it was a real fun conversation. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and we will see you next time.
This podcast is property of Paychex Inc., 2020, all rights reserved.